Hey, what is up, guys? This is Primal Dialga, and today I want to talk to you about a generation other than millennials that's killing an iconic American company. Let's get into it. All of this information is in a Yahoo Finance article by Daniel Howley, and I'm going to leave that in the description below. And this company is GameStop. I'm sure you've heard a ton of news about GameStop having issues lately, but according to this article, millennials aren't necessarily the ones killing it. This article focuses on Generation Z, so the generation after the millennials. Also, to clear something up, the article says that Generation Z is anyone born between 1997 and 2012, and then millennials, which is also Generation Y, that's the generation before this. The main survey that they talk about in this article is a survey conducted by Piper Jeffrey. But it monitored the habits of 8,000 people from Generation Z. It says on average, these teenagers spent about $2,600 a year. And if every teenager in the US spent about that much, it equals to about $77 billion. The article says that teenage boys spend about 14% of their money on video games, which is higher than anything outside of food and clothing. As a teenager, I don't think I spent any money on clothing. I mainly just spent money on video games and food, mostly food. In contrast, though, it looks like girls spend about 1% of their budget on video games, which is weird enough because it says that teenage gamers are 55% male and 45% female, but Piper says that it could be due to the fact that women are more likely to play mobile games, and the largest demographic for mobile games is older than this generation. So I guess that kind of explains the disconnect. So this makes video game consumers much more likely to be male, since females only spend 1% of their budget on video games. So it also says that 60% of all teenagers surveyed preferred purchasing video games digitally. It also says that this is an increase from 55% the year before and 45% the year before that. So it's steadily increasing. And finally, this article says that GameStop has a lot working against it, obviously. Video game developers push digital sales just so that they can have higher margins, which I think GameStop only makes like $5 on a new game, so they don't have large margins anyway. Also, the article says digital games, unless they're made by Nintendo, of course, go on sale a few weeks after launch, typically. And I don't know how true that is, to be honest, because I buy most of my games physically, so I wouldn't know. But it also says that lessens the need for a used copy, which makes sense. I mean, a lot of the reason people get a used game is just so they can get it like $5 or $10 off the regular price. But if the price drops a couple weeks after, then why buy a used copy? And with less people buying physical copies, there's going to be less trade-ins, which is where GameStop makes most of its money. They buy a game from you for like 5 cents, and then they sell it for $55. So if there's less people doing that, then GameStop isn't making a significant amount of their money. One of the final significant things from this article is that it says Microsoft and Sony are supposed to release next-gen consoles that don't have a disk drive in them. They might be, I think Microsoft was going to have one version that had a disk drive and one that didn't. That was maybe cheaper. But anyway, so without a disk drive, you can obviously not play physical games. So really, they're just trying to cut out physical games altogether, which I think is a shame. Personally, I think video games are a part of history. I think they should be preserved. I think that you should be able to have a physical copy of a game, because really if you don't have a physical copy, then really you're at the will of whatever company published that game or released that game. I was at my local GameStop like a month ago because I was buying one of those plush things. It was really cheap. Anyway, so we got to talking about it, and I think the GameStop employee was talking about someone who played GTA 5 and they did something that was against terms of service or whatever. So they just banned his account, or they did something to where he couldn't play the game that he had bought, which is really, I get that for the most part the companies are in the business to make money. They're not gonna just screw over everybody unless they're EA. But I think we shouldn't be in that situation to where we have to just hope that a company does what they're supposed to do and doesn't ban us from a $60 or $70 game that we already bought. So anyway, that's just my little rant on it. I make a full-blown rant video on it one day. But thank you guys for watching. Feel free to subscribe and like and donate to my Patreon. But as you probably know, I don't have a Patreon, so good luck with that. And I'll see you guys in the next video.